So, as many of you will know, recently over the last few weeks, since raids have came out, there have been a lot of updates, a lot of tweaks and twerks to certain bosses inside of old school RuneScape, trying to balance out the PvP system a little bit, because obviously we have been introduced to new items, new armors, new weapons, and everything was a little bit up in the air for the first few weeks. Jagex actually decided that they would remove Bandos's mage defense at one point, and this opened up opportunity, and it opened up a lot of ideas where people thought, we're going to try out a few different methods, we're going to try to do a few different things which you wouldn't exactly class as being the meta, so to speak. So something which recently got brought to my attention was a good friend of mine uploaded a video where he actually posted himself killing Armadyl with basically rubbish mage plus, and he had himself a toxic staff, and he was hitting pretty high. So I decided I could only do one thing. I thought, do you know what? With all of the recent updates, with all of the new armors and weapons that have come out, I can only do this one way. So I decided, and if you can't realise by now, you're probably not watching the screen, I decided I would gear up in absolute max mage. As you can see, this is currently the best mage bonus that you can currently have in game, including mage damage. The only buff on mage damage that you could get is if you had a Slayer helm imbued on, and obviously it would have to be your set task. So I would like to credit my friend Heath by linking his channel down in the description, so make sure you guys go over there, subscribe to his channel. I don't honestly know. I really don't know how this is going to go. I'm going to be totally honest. If I can hit, this may be the new method for killing Armadyl. I mean, if this really does work, thinking of how expensive Chinchompas are, obviously this gear is a little excessive because it's obviously this whole setup here cost around about 500 mil. Average player can't afford this gear. Is this really going to be this easy? I'm literally, I wish I was on camera now. I have my hands literally behind my head right now. Like, I don't even have to attack the minion. I don't even know if that would make too much difference, and he's gonna melee anyways, so there's not too much point. Now, this is the first time that I have ever maged Armadyl. It is typically a range-in boss, and if you actually look at the stats of its defense on Wikipedia, you can actually see that the range defense and mage defense are exactly the same. However, obviously with Chin method that was discovered quite a while back, it has been, up until this point, the most efficient way to kill Armadyl. Now, it may be efficient in terms of speed, but in terms of cost, it is very expensive, with Chinchompas ranging from 2 to almost 3k per chin at times. If there is an alternative measure which doesn't involve chins, it's going to be good for everybody, apart from people that are actually hunting the chins. Now, I think the main flaw with the gear setup that I currently have is that these new robes actually have very low defensive stats. Although the offensive stats are very good, and it is by far the best mage plus you can possibly get, we just weren't quite tanky enough to be able to heal up in time, and it was ending up in me resorting and eating a fair bit of food. Probably one of the first things that I realised in this gear was that we just quite literally didn't have the defense bonus that we needed. Our offensive bonus was absolutely through the roof. I could hit very high, and it was fairly accurate. However, we were taking so much damage from the minions and from actual Armadyl himself, it just isn't that efficient. Now, that is not to say that there is not a build out there which would work a lot better than this, because if you actually compare these robes to the stats of Arim's, although it does lack the offensive, it actually has a fair few defensive stats which these robes do not. And of course, you could always get yourself, say, an Elysian Spirit Shield, and you could always get yourself maybe, say, a Verax Helm or a Serpentine Helm. There's also the fact that there probably is a better tactic to which I am currently doing in the room. So basically with Chinchompas, you have to be very precise with where you attack the small minion to make sure that it deflects onto Armadyl itself, whereas with Blood Barrage, the hitbox is a lot larger, meaning that you can pretty much run around the room to your heart's content and try and stack Armadyl on top of a minion, meaning you're going to be healing a fair bit. Now, I personally really love the updates which have been coming out recently, all of the raid rewards, all of the new armor and weapons, because it is bringing new things like this into the game where we have more variety on how we want to kill bosses. Granted, the gear that I have is not the gear which is probably the best for this. As you can see, I do take way too much damage, and in fact, I wouldn't want to do this for a long period of time. But that isn't to say that somebody in the future could very easily take this, adapt to it, and possibly find a more efficient way than Black Chin Chompers in the future. And who knows, this may be the start of something. This may be the next thing which is going to be the most efficient when it comes to Armadyl. I mean, I think I could speak for everybody now when I say we don't want to be paying that much for Black Chins to come on a solo trip. And something else which is quite important is that I actually soloed this, and as you all know, soloing is obviously a lot harder than going with somebody else, and a good friend of mine actually pointed out what you could do, because usually the setup for a duo would be one person chin and the other person crossbowing. So what you could do is you can have your average chinner, and you could also have somebody there with, say, the Trident or with the Blood Barrage, who is just attacking Kree, which would work exactly the same, and who knows, that may be faster, it may be slower, we don't know yet. But it's just something to give a little thought to, guys, because if people actually invested enough time into this, I'm sure that somebody could come up with a much more efficient guide to how I'm doing it right now. And by no means is this a guide, just a little disclaimer. This was completely thrown together. I really didn't know where to stand or what to attack. Also, nobody has tried to duo this with Mage. Can you imagine having two people here, both with Blood Barrage? You'd be healing your ass up. To be honest, I took a lot of damage because I was on my own, so I was the complete and utter aggro. I was the focus of their aggression for the entire kill, meaning there was nothing to tag them off. They were constantly on me, constantly DPSing me, and there was nobody there to have my back. If there were two of us in that room and we both had Mage, who knows? It may be enough less aggro for us to actually be able to stay there for a hell of a long time, possibly even meaning that we wouldn't have to take so much food, we'd have to take more blood barrages, bones to peaches, and probably just stack out the minions. Now, I do have to say, actually recording this video, using these robes, using this armor, really did make me feel like, holy shit, I want to get myself a big bank. And on that note, I would like to thank the people which did lend me the GP to be able to buy this gear. I'm not going to say your names out for obvious reason, but you know who you are. Thank you very much. Worth seeing the difference between Arim's to the ancestral robes. I'm going to quickly take a look and pay attention to the defense more than anything. We are going to be losing some magic, but it should make up for that with the amount of defense we get. So starting with the hood, not too much of a difference there, to be honest, barely noticeable, so I think it'd probably be worth keeping the hat. Take a look at the bottoms. Actually, it isn't that much of a difference, to be completely honest. I mean, we're gaining a little bit, but we're not getting much from it. We've actually just lost a lot of our magic damage, but with the Verax helm equipped, that looks a little bit better, I suppose. Or maybe you could just take the Verax helm, maybe with the ancestral, but obviously with the better defense, you kind of need defense at this place. It doesn't seem to work that great, but I do feel as if there is room for improvement, and who knows, in a few weeks and a few months there may be a new method for killing armor that may be better than the current one, and if that is the case, you can bet your asses those Black Chin Chompers aren't going to be staying at 2.5k for very long. So that is going to be the end of killing Armadyl today. I did have a good time using this setup. It was very nice to try something different at Armadyl. And I mean, I did manage to get a fair few kills, although it isn't anywhere near as close as good as what range currently is. That may change in the future. My opinion overall, I would say this build definitely has some potential. There is definitely a few things which need to be tweaked in the sense of gear and possibly the tactics in which you have inside the room, but it definitely has enough potential for something to actually come from this. Now, I personally feel like there is a lot of potential to this, and I think that if somebody were to take the time to try and figure out probably the best gear and whatever the best tactic is inside the room, this could very well be a viable thing in the near future. Bear in mind, I actually didn't have augury either, which would have been a nice help because that extra magic damage would have been really nice. With that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. I am currently working on another 100 mil in 24-hour challenge. I am currently around about 6 hours in, but I really wanted to make this video, I'm not gonna lie. The winner for the bond will be announced in the next video, guys. thank you very much for all of the comments, all of the support, and all of the love on the last video. Much appreciated. Make sure if you enjoyed today's video, you leave me a thumbs up, leave me a cheeky comment, and hopefully, I'll see you soon.